Welcome to the Small Business Innovation Research and the Small Business Technology Transfer programs. My name is Randy Harmon. I'm a technology commercialization consultant with my own small business, Foundations Business Development Group, and I consult for the New Jersey Small Business Development Centers Network, headquartered at Rutgers University Business School. This is the first of 3 webcasts I plan on sharing with you, intended to provide an introduction and overview of the SBIR and STTR programs and proposal writing. This first webcast is an introduction to SBIR and STTR. The second webcast is an introduction to solicitation and topic searching. Once you've decided that SBIR and STTR may be worth pursuing, your biggest challenge becomes identifying solicitations and topics that may fit your technology or core technical competencies. The third webcast is an introduction to proposal writing. The SBIR program is the federal government's largest R&D grants program targeted to small businesses. There's approximately $2 billion available for the program annually. I am an enthusiastic champion of this program. I believe that it is the best source of early-stage risk capital to develop a promising new technology. However, beyond providing companies with an often desperately needed cash infusion, I believe that the real underlying and most compelling value proposition of the program is that it can serve entrepreneurs as a pathway to equity financing. All federal agencies with large extramural or external R&D budgets are required to participate in the SBIR program. These are agencies whose extramural R&D budget exceeds a threshold of $100 million per year. They're required to set aside 3.2% of these budgets for competitive grants to small businesses. The program was reauthorized in December of 2011 through September 30th of 2017. There was some effort last year, well before the election, to try to reauthorize the program, which didn't seem to get very far. Given a then unknown change in administration, the intent was to avoid the possibility that reauthorization get delayed as it had been delayed previously. Once the outcome of the election was known, reauthorization was pushed through in November, and SBIR has been reauthorized through 2022. Unfortunately, this was a rather bare-bones reauthorization. It included no changes, no increase in the funding set aside, and did not renew any of the promising 2011 pilot initiatives that will now have to be specifically reauthorized or else expire. The statutory purpose of SBIR is to strengthen the role of small businesses in federally funded research and development. The bottom line objective of the SBIR program is technology commercialization. The intent is to increase private sector commercialization of innovations derived from federal R&D, thereby increasing competition, productivity, and economic growth. The way in which the program typically works is that agencies publish 1 or more solicitations per year, wherein they identify either broad areas of research interest or very real problems that they need entrepreneurs' help in solving. If you have a technology that you believe addresses one of these agency interests or solves a problem, you can prepare and submit a Phase 1 proposal. Phase 1 is a feasibility study. The goal of Phase 1 is to determine the scientific, technical, and commercial merit and feasibility of your approach and your envisioned commercial product. Phase 1 typically runs for a period of 6 months and comes with a financial award of up to $150,000. Your deliverable is most frequently a report, although sometimes an agency will require some type of prototype, particularly in the case of software-related projects. If you're successful in Phase 1, you can prepare and submit a Phase 2 proposal. Phase 2 supports your principal R&D effort. It provides for further development of your work from Phase 1 and may include the development of a prototype. If you're working with the Defense Department, you'll be expected to develop a prototype. Phase 2 typically runs for a period of 2 years and comes with a financial award of up to $1 million. Between Phase 1 and Phase 2, applicants can switch from SBIR to STTR, which I'll address shortly, or from STTR to SBIR. If you're successful in Phase 1 and Phase 2, you're then expected to commercialize your technology under what's called Phase 3. However, the term Phase 3 is a bit of a misnomer in that there's no new funding available with Phase 3. You're expected to be able, by that point, to be able to raise what money you need for commercialization, either privately or through your government customer. The reauthorization of 2011 brought with it the potential for significantly larger awards. Agencies may now exceed funding limits by 50% and may request exemptions above and beyond this for specific topics. This raises the Phase 1 limit from $150,000 to $225,000 and raises the Phase 2 limit to $1,500,000. Several agencies had and continue to have award maximums below the lower statutory limits. I think that the smaller agencies may prefer to make more smaller awards than fewer large ones. To date, only 3 agencies have made Phase 1 awards up to $225,000. These are the National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, and the Department of Energy. NIH is the only agency so far to make Phase 2 awards above $1 million. In the case of NSF, for example, while they've raised their Phase 1 limit to $225,000, their Phase 2 award limit is set at $750,000, which is well below even the lower statutory limit. One of the unfortunate characteristics, and indeed an unfortunate hallmark of the SBIR program, is that each agency has done things a little differently than all the other agencies. The U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, serves as policy and coordinating agency for the program. However, they have little authority or control over the individual agency programs. Some of the most visible ways in which the agency programs are different are in the number and scheduling of solicitations over the course of the year, as well as different dollar limits on awards that I just addressed. As part of the reauthorization of 2011, Congress attempted to simplify the program and increase standardization. However, this is at best a work in progress, and it remains to be seen how things progress. In order to be eligible for participation in the SBIR program, there must be a for-profit business operating primarily in the U.S. That business cannot be dominant in the field of operation in which it is proposing. The legal structure of the business isn't particularly important. Any of the common ones are acceptable. What is critically important is that 51% of the company be owned and controlled by individuals who are U.S. citizens or permanent resident aliens. In addition, All Phase 1 and Phase 2 work must be performed in the U.S., and required equipment must be manufactured here whenever possible. A rather contentious issue has been surrounding the SBIR program for now well over 10 years, and this has to do with the eligibility of venture capital-owned companies for participation in the program. The central question here is whether it is appropriate, reasonable, and fair for a company to continue to be eligible to participate in SBIR once it is able to raise venture capital and once it becomes majority owned by one or more VC funds. I believe that this issue was single-handedly responsible for a 3-year delay in reauthorization when the program last expired in 2008. This is because the House of Representatives and the Senate were at opposite ends of this issue. The House, along with the trade association BIO, argued for unlimited eligibility of VC-owned companies for participation. However, the Senate was opposed to this. Under the reauthorization, NIH, NSF, and the Department of Energy may award up to 25% of their SBIR funds to small businesses that are owned in majority part by multiple venture capital operating companies, hedge funds, or private equity firms through competitive, merit-based procedures that are open to all eligible small business concerns. This maximum was set at 15% for all the other agencies. I have learned through this what a difference a single word can make in a policy directive. You'll note that the policy directive says that agencies may award and not that they must or shall award. The Department of Energy states in their 2017 solicitation that small businesses that are majority owned by venture capital operating companies or their friends are not eligible for funding under this opportunity announcement. Small businesses must meet this criterion at both time of submission and time of award. NSF says essentially the same thing. NIH allows participation of venture capital-backed companies under SBIR, but not for STTR. As the Small Business Innovation Research Program, SBIR is faculty unfriendly. The principal investigator or lead researcher must be primarily employed by the company during the project period. This is defined as more than 50% of his or her time. However, not all of this time is required to be spent on the SBIR project. Some of it can be spent on other company projects as well. The STTR program is essentially the younger, poorer sibling of SBIR. The statutory purpose of STTR is to stimulate a partnership of ideas and technologies between innovative small business concerns and research institutions through federally funded R&D. The goal here is to foster the transfer of new technology from a research institution setting to the commercial sector. Only the 5 agencies with the largest extramural R&D budgets are required to participate in STTR. These are agencies whose budgets surpass a threshold of $1 billion per year compared to the $100 million threshold that requires SBIR participation. The set-aside for STTR is much lower than under SBIR at 45/100% compared to 3.2% for SBIR. The net result is that STTR has less than 15% of SBIR's funding. The two programs are structured nearly identically. The primary differentiator is that STTR requires that between 30 and 60% of your award go to support a collaboration with a nonprofit or academic research organization. In addition, STTR is also more faculty-friendly. Except for NSF, the principal investigator or lead researcher may be employed by either the small business or the research partner. In the case of NIH, they simply require that the PI spend at least 10% of his or her time on the STTR project. The vision for STTR was that it would result in increased technology transfer from nonprofit and academic labs. The reality, however, has been somewhat different, and that has been the collaborative and joint development of the small businesses technology. I am an enthusiastic champion of both of these programs. I believe that they represent the closest thing to the entrepreneur's holy grail of free money. There are no loans to be repaid, no equity is given away, and the small business maintains control of the intellectual property. In addition, as you see on the slide, there are good odds for success. Now, about 10 years ago, I was speaking in Camden and was asked for the first time, "Randy, what is the downside to these programs?" Well, I frankly was a little bit taken aback by the question, as I had never thought of nearly free money as having a downside before. However, if there is a downside, I would suggest that it's the fact that the total elapsed time between your decision to pursue the programs, perhaps as a result of this webcast, and the completion of phase 2 can begin to approach 5 years. Now that's a long time, particularly in entrepreneur years. There are numerous steps, as you see, in the pursuit of SBIR and STTR, and each of these steps represents an opportunity for delay. A significant portion of this total elapsed time can be attributed to a widely recognized problem of lag time between the submission of proposals and the notice of award. As I said earlier, I believe that the real underlying and most compelling value proposition of these two programs is that they can serve entrepreneurs as a pathway to equity financing. Equity investors, angels, and venture capitalists typically love it when a prospective portfolio company wins an SBIR or STTR award. First, they see it as providing an infusion of undiluted capital into the company. Second, they see it as providing external validation from outside the business regarding the merits of the small business's technology. A Phase 1 award means that a company's technology has been evaluated by one or more or a panel of subject matter experts and found to have merit. Investors love Phase 2 awards even more. It means that a company's technology has undergone a second vetting at now a little more developed stage and again found to have merit. It also means that a company's commercialization plans have successfully undergone evaluation. A common vulnerability among scientists and engineers is to focus narrowly on the development of their technology at the expense of other important business development activities. If, however, particularly during Phase 2, a company pays attention to minimizing its market and other business risks while developing the technology, that company can begin to become a realistic prospect for equity financing.